Hi, welcome to Hey Parents, Let's Chat. I am Jess Hunt, and this is one of 6 videos where I really wanted to focus on those first 5 years of life, which are so critically important as we build a foundation for those little human beings that we're raising. Um, and I have an introductory video which talks about some of the misconceptions on parenting. How long do we have? What's the time frame? And feel free to watch that video. But what I will say is that when I was raising my 2 little ones, I had a huge misconception about how important those first 5 years were. And I used to think, any mistakes I make, I can fix them when they're 8 or 9. Well, that's not always the case. And so that's why I really wanted to focus on each individual year from birth to 5 individually. And for this video, I wanted to focus on the baby year from newborn to age 1. And I want to start out by saying, you cannot spoil a baby. And I have a video dedicated to that issue specifically. I just firmly believe that your baby spent 9 months inside you, and then it takes them 9 months to learn how to figure out how to live outside of you. So it's not going to happen overnight, and I look at it this way: 9 months in, 9 months transitioning to live outside of you. I'm just going to put this out there. There was a question a mom had that was, she said that the baby wasn't sleeping through the night, and it was getting really frustrating, and how could they help the baby to sleep anywhere else other than on their chest, because as soon as they moved, they would fuss and wake up. And then at the very end, and the mom said, the baby's just 5 days old. And I was like, oh my gosh, 5 days old? Like, no baby should be sleeping through the night at 5 days old. Their bellies are too small. They don't have enough food in them. They have to eat every couple hours. So it's something that we as moms learn. We have learning curves we have to figure out. There are a ton of resources out there in the world. There are books, there are videos, there are a ton of resources. And so it's important that you do what you can to make sure that you're, reading and, listening to TV shows on parenting or whatever, blogs, video blogs that are out there. Most importantly, talk to people that are around you. Surround yourself with people, moms, dads that have similar values that you might have. It could be a grandmother or an aunt or a sister. If you can find people that have similar parenting styles, then you can learn from them. You can ask them questions. And they don't have to be exactly similar to you. I've always said that it's important to learn what you want to do or what is good to do as a parent, as much as it is important to learn what not to do or what you would not do as a parent. And so you want to be around people that are similar, but they don't have to be exactly like you. We all parent differently, but you can be learning from those around you. But you want to surround yourself with people that you can be asking questions of and just having conversations. Hey, this happened to me. What do I do? What did you do with your kids? And that way you are learning. So again, getting back to that first year, newborn to age 1. And you cannot spoil a baby. Again, they're learning how to live outside of your body. And that is going to take about 9 months for them to develop and learn how to do that physically, emotionally, and mentally. Now, they're going to go through a ton of phases and stages. And so let's just talk about sleep for a moment, because I just did touch upon that. You might have a baby that slept really, really well and slept through the night. And then you might have another baby that did not. Every baby is completely different. You might have one baby that slept really, really well 1 month, and then all of a sudden decided to change their mind and then didn't sleep well for a month. And that is for a variety of reasons. They could be teething, they could be going through sleep regression, which might happen somewhere around 4 months of age. Um, and that is just a part of it. Like, there's always a roller coaster that we have to deal with our children as parents, and especially during those baby years. It's not ever going to be consistent. It's always going to be changing, and so it's just something to keep in mind. Don't stress out if something that worked really, really well last month all of a sudden is not working. That's just because your baby is growing and developing. It might be going through a growth spurt, where their sleep habits are going to change. And same with foods. You might be feeding them certain foods, and one week they love it, the next week they don't. And frankly, I always thought that was kind of cool because a lot of parents will get stressed out because their baby isn't liking a certain food or won't eat anything. And I always think of it, they change all of the time. But frankly, this is where they start learning to voice their opinion. They're just babies, but they're already showing a preference for things that they like and don't like. And that is very cool. And so don't get stressed out because whatever they didn't like 1 month, they might like next month. And so you just have to keep trying and exposing them to new things. And again, so they might go through, teething, and when they are younger. Teething is something I think that we're all kind of familiar with. They're going to become uncomfortable. You have to find ways to comfort them, and there's different teething toys that you can give them. But as I said, that you can't spoil a baby, and I feel like there are times when a baby might be fussy, and then a baby might be crying. If a baby is fussy, then that's fine. They're just learning how to figure out whether they're uncomfortable physically or they might need a change of pace or something. But if they're all out crying, I feel like that is them communicating with us. And lots of people might say, oh, you're spoiling the baby if you pick them up as soon as they cry or every time they cry. I just don't believe that. I believe that when a baby is crying, they're communicating with us. And I always felt like it was my job as a mom to answer that cry. If you're crying, there must be a reason for it. Either you're needing a change of diaper, you're hungry, you're just feeling like you needed me. And I always felt like if they were crying, they're communicating. If I answer them, they're learning that they can trust me. They're learning they can depend on me. And to me, that was super important. Anytime the baby is trying to communicate with you, you want to communicate back with them. Crying is really the only way they know how to communicate. They will start making noises and smiling and, cooing and all of these things. And that's them learning language development. But if my baby is upset, I feel like I need to answer that. And I might rock them and soothe them or figure out what their basic needs are. Maybe they need a bottle or they need a change of diaper or just a change of scenery. Sometimes babies just even get overstimulated with so much around them. They might just need a more calming environment. And so I always felt like it was my job to answer that cry. And so I always felt like that first year is all about bonding. It's all about communication. It's all about developing that trust and that bond between you and your baby. And so I just firmly believe that you just can't spoil a baby. And it's our job for those first 9 months to be answering their cries and meeting their needs. Now, once they hit like 9 months to a year, that's when they start becoming a little bit more independent, a little bit more detached. And we'll talk about that in a moment. Now, as they're going through different phases and stages throughout the baby years, like they might go through separation anxiety right around 9 months. And I always felt like this was another one of those times when babies are communicating with us. And you might have your baby, and let's say you have an aunt or an uncle that wants to hold them, and they go to take the baby from you, and the baby starts to fuss, and they're like, oh, it's separation anxiety. All babies go through it. They'll be fine. Let me have the baby. Now, if the baby settles down and is fine, then that's great. They were a little bit fussy, but they settled in, and that's fine. But if the person that you've given the baby to takes the baby, and the baby starts to continue to cry, and the person's like, oh, don't worry about it. My baby did this too. It's just separation anxiety. I always felt like, you know what? I wasn't comfortable with that. And I always took the baby back because I felt like that was my baby developing instincts and following their gut. And if they weren't comfortable and they were crying out to me, then I wanted them to understand that you need to trust your instincts and you need to trust that I am going to help you. And so I would always take the baby back because I felt like that was my job. And I just really, all through my kids growing up, one of the things I definitely like to hone in with them is that they really needed to understand the importance of having instincts and developing those instincts and trusting them and following their gut at any stage in life. And I feel like it really starts in those baby years. Again, babies have opinions. Babies feel comfortable with some people, not with others. They like certain foods, not others. And that's part of them developing. And we should be supporting that. And so even though kids might go through phases like separation anxiety, I always felt like I needed to listen to their needs and meet their needs. And even though it would be a phase they're going through, I wanted them to follow their instincts, even at 9 months. And so I just really felt like bonding and communication is so super important for that first year. Now, super important that you're meeting their needs physically, emotionally, and mentally. And as they are growing and developing, one of the things that I hear moms ask about is, oh, like what's a good TV show that they could learn from at 4 months old? And I'm like, none. There is so much that babies are learning from their environment. And they don't need any screen time at all. And while we are raising these little babies, there is so much that they are learning from. They are sponges as they are listening and they are watching. So there is so much for them to be learning from their environment. And so we want to make sure that we are giving them tummy time so that they can develop those strong muscles and changing their positions. Because if they're in the same position all the time, they're only developing a certain set of muscles. You want to change their position so that they're learning to grow and develop different sets of muscles. You want to be moving their arms and legs and playing with them, dancing with them, having them, move on their own, and having music playing in the background, either softly or loudly, as you dance with them, or just softly in the background as they're just sitting there calmly playing with their toys. There are a ton of toys that they can learn to play with and enjoy, some soft and some hard, to develop some of that sensory awareness. Some things might be smushy, some things are going to be stiff, and they are going to be learning what they like and they don't like through their touch, through what they see, and what happens when they kick something. And there is so much to be learned with age-appropriate toys for them, as well as just being around you and around other people. And you can be offering opportunities to read books with them They obviously don't know how to read, but they're listening to your voice. They're listening to the tone of your voice. They're looking at the pictures. You're turning the pages for them. If there is a younger sibling, having them read books to the baby is so awesome. Stuffed animals that are super soft and fluffy. It could be animals, stuffed animals, that make noise. All of these things are learning opportunities for your baby. And so providing them with as much as possible blocks to build on. It's so important that they're learning their fine motor skills as they're picking up tiny little pieces, as they're banging things. They're learning natural consequences. If I bang, this falls through. Even in a high chair, they're going to go through a phase where they're throwing things off of their high chair. That's actually a natural phase that they go through of their development. If I throw this, what happens? And while that might be one of those phases that is super frustrating, they're learning how to throw. And so I always used to put a sheet underneath the, high chair or wherever they were eating. And so it's super important that we understand the phases that they might go through as natural rather than getting frustrated and yelling at them. They definitely understand different tones of voices. So there's so much for them to be learning from without any screens. There might be times when there's too much going on around them and they might just need a quieter environment. There might be times when they get fussy because it's too quiet and they want some more stimulus because they are bored and they want some action. They also might have times when they just don't want anything and they just want to contently observe. That doesn't mean that they're not learning. If your baby is sitting there and just observing, they are looking and learning constantly as they are listening and watching interactions. I remember I used to have my babies sit in one of those little bouncy seats on the breakfast bar, and they would just be sitting there and just kind of hanging out while I cooked dinner. And they were happy as could be. And I didn't need to be entertaining them. As a matter of fact, as we parents, it's not our job to constantly entertain our children. I believe it's our job to guide and support and sometimes play with them, absolutely. But I do believe that they can entertain themselves with their own natural curiosity. And so we don't need to be entertaining them. We need to be providing them with opportunities for them to entertain themselves and learn as they are doing it. And so, again, with all of these toys and things that you might have in your house that are age appropriate for the baby, those are all super important. Touching, kicking, using their body, moving around. As they get to be about 9 months to a year, they have learned how to exist outside of your body. They become more independent. Once they get closer to 1, they're starting to walk, they're crawling, they're moving around, they're becoming so much more independent and more mobile. They have developed their opinions of things that they like and don't like. They are already developing into little human beings. And right, as they get closer to 1, they will start to understand the word no, and they will become way more mobile and independent. So again, that first year is all about communication and bonding. And there's huge growth and development as they just become little people that start moving around and, walking and needing you a little bit less. So I hope that you have found this video helpful. And if you have, go ahead and hit subscribe, like, share, follow, all of those things. If you have comments that you can share, because I firmly believe that we parents are the experts, and the more we share, the more we learn, the better parents we become. Add your comments in the comment section, whether you see this video on Facebook or YouTube or Instagram, or go to heyparentsletschat.com and see the videos there. Add your chats, add your comments to the chat section. So that others can perhaps benefit from your experiences, or you can be learning from other comments that other people have left. So I hope you have found this video helpful, and I certainly do appreciate your support. And until next time, thank you for joining us.